Hello and welcome to today's webinar from Atlas, Unlock Regional Talent Markets, Data-Driven Strategies for Global Hiring Success in 2025. With more than three-quarters of employers experiencing difficulty filling roles, understanding the nuances of regional talent landscapes is key to competitive hiring in 2025. On this webinar, you'll gain insight into accessing and leveraging workforce intelligence data to map and access previously untapped global talent pools. You'll also learn how to make informed decisions about compensation and benefits based on regional insights and attract the best talent through understanding local market dynamics. Today, we're joined by Senior Solutions Advisor at Atlas, Chiara Naviganti, and Silvina Leani, Senior People and Culture Consultant at Unorthodox. Before I hand over, just a couple of points to mention. We'll be running a couple of snapshot polls during the webinar, so please let us know your opinion in those. And also, if you have any questions as we go along, use the chat function and we can address those at the end. The more you interact, the more value you'll glean from today's content. So get involved, no need to be shy. Enough of me. I'm going to hand you over now to Chiara, who's going to get the ball rolling. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ronnie. And good morning or good afternoon, everyone, depending on which side of the pond we are calling from today. So my name is Chiara. I work as a Senior Global Solution Advisor at Atlas. I've been in the HR industry and the HR landscape for the past 15 years, mainly navigating complex situation when dealing with international expansion and talent acquisition strategy. So we have, of course, a wonderful guest, Silvina, today, and we're going to have a very, very interactive session. Before eventually passing the stage to my colleague Silvina, I really would like to provide a general overview of what's happening today in the global landscape, not only here in Europe or eventually in the US, but what are really the trends that are shaping what we are doing. So let's look a little bit into the agenda of today. We're going to look at the global hiring challenges. For those of us who are in the HR, it's undeniable the challenges that we are facing, especially over the last few years. We're going to look especially on how the workforce intelligence can help us as HR professionals, as recruiters, and in general as organization to really change the game and help us in the talent strategy acquisition. We're going to have real-world application, of course, with our wonderful guest Silvina today, and then we're going to go into some actionable strategy for 2025 and hopefully beyond. All right. Okay, so without any further ado, let's look into the global landscape. How is the global hiring? What are the global hiring challenges today? Here we can see an abstract. These are the data that we're going to present now are basically official data that have been exported by the World Economic Forum and by the latest report at a global level. So from not only, of course, the WF, but also the PwC, Manpower, and all the main organization that can give us insight about what's happening really nowadays. It's undeniable that there is a technological transformation, right? Anything that we can open today, from Googling or in our life in general, is all about technology, all about, of course, artificial intelligence, etc. So the technological change on top with the geoeconomic fragmentation is really what is driving today the landscape, basically, of the workforce scenario. This is not just, once again, per region, but at a global level. We are expected, basically, that there are a complete shape and retransformation of the global labor market by 2030. That it seems like very far away, but it's actually happening tomorrow. If we look once again at the data of the World Economic Forum, over 60% of the employer are expecting to transform their business somehow in the next 5 years, really. 2030 is actually in the next 5 years. What can we see once again on a global level? There's going to be an advancement in technology. Once again, artificial intelligence and information processing we are looking at companies that are restructuring this area by 86%. Robotics and automation is going to definitely take the lead over the next 5 years. But also companies are looking at the energy generation, the storage, the distribution, thinking about all the green initiatives that are, for example, sponsored also here in Europe by the Euro Commission and at a global level. What are also other micro trends that we can see that are highly impacting the industries and the corporates literally across the globe? There is an increasing cost of living rents. Okay, it's really undeniable that costs have dramatically, unfortunately, increased daily at every side of the globe. We expected an increase into demand for creative thinking and resilience, flexibility, and agility skills. People really need to rethink and remap their own skills, and companies also have to rethink and remapping the skills that they need to hire to, of course, face that challenge. There are climate change mitigation. The green initiatives are all over the place. The climate change adaptation ranks actually are at 47% and 41% of the employers. So really companies are now looking, when we're thinking about not only the hiring strategy, but really the strategy in general of companies. Companies are now looking into how they can boost eventually, and they can help and be a significant active part of the green transition that, by the way, governments are really pushing as a real target by 2030. Two of the major demographic shifts. This is something that is unprecedented, literally in history. We are aging a lot. Well or not well, I don't know, that's debatable, but the population is actually aging. And there is, on the other side, a declining in the working age population. And these are, of course, challenges that any HR function, but any organization needs to take highly into consideration. And last, but certainly not least, there is a geoeconomic fragmentation and geopolitical tensions that are undeniably really shaping the landscape and the scenarios where companies can not only operate, but also eventually trade, with a high and very deep effect on, of course, all the internal procedures and operations. So now let's move a little bit more into the HR roles, into the HR function and the HR industry in general. What are the global hiring challenges that companies are facing nowadays? These are data extracted by the Manpower report, and we could see that 77% of employers globally are actually struggling to find the talent that they need. We saw the differences now that we can find. People need to really reinvent new skills, okay? A data that really captured my attention when I was reading this report, and these are the reports from the World Economic Forum, is in the next 5 years, 170 million jobs are projected to be created. We are talking about 170 million jobs that now they don't exist. We even don't know about, right? They're going to be created from scratches. And also on the other side, 92 million jobs are going to disappear, are going to be displaced. So this is also a very important data. We've been talking a lot about data today. This represented 22% of the current labor market. So as organizations and leaders, we need to think that almost a quarter of our workforce in the next, once again, only 5 years, it's going to be basically disappear, or it needs to be reinvented from scratch. And we can imagine the challenges the companies are facing at the moment. There is talent shortage and gaps for these type of skills. Sometimes we need to think about, when we're thinking about strategy, thinking about skills that we even don't know yet, right? There is a global competition for top talent. People who are developing new skills, people who are ahead of the curve now, are the talents who are massively requested, not only by recruiters, but by companies worldwide. The economic shift is impacting hiring. It's difficult nowadays to find. We see that the population is aging, right? So it's almost more and more challenging to find the right set of skills, the right set of individuals, but also the right population, where to hire, where do we start hiring people. And there is a hybrid work, remote changes and expectation. Just even I smile because, for example, I'm Italian. I've been an expat for over 10 years right now, ranging from Dubai to London to back to Milan. And I can see how the different regional realities really change, right? Just last week, I was here attending a conference in Milan, and they were thinking, because of our culture, let's all go back to work. And there are other regions that say, no, let's do remote work fully. So there are challenges. There are challenges that are also demanding and are coming from the needs of the new talent. There is a need for expanding talent availability, right? We need to literally dive into the diverse pool of people, of skills, of cultures, of country to be able to find the right skills, the right talents for our organization. And how this is gonna change, so how the next 5 years are gonna look like. The 80% of employers, they have basically a plan to prioritize upskilling in the workforce. So they're going to train the workforce and try to create and train the existing population. 70% of the employers that have been interviewed are also expecting to hire staff with new skills, especially with the new generations. They have an ability for technologies that I can only dream about, right? But people and employers are looking to hire completely new set of talents with different set of skills. 40% of the employers are planning to reduce staff as their skills become less relevant. And the 39% of the existing skill set will be completely transformed. So once again, the need both from employees and employers of adaptability. Now, let's talk about how we can, in reality, really dive and give a help to employers and company in general when it comes to hiring. We're going to talk a lot about the workforce intelligence today. What is it? It's really a game changer for the talent acquisition strategy worldwide. Basically, how it works. There is a data-driven insights on talent supply, salaries, skills, and availabilities. That means that through basically the type of systems and these data acquisitions, employers are able to map out where it's possible to find talents with that particular skills, or eventually if they're expanding, what the benchmarking could be when we're preparing, for example, a compensation strategy for our employees and for our workforce. The workforce intelligence also works on hard data from a contextual indicators on the economic labor market. We just saw the major trends on an economic global level that are really impacting the decisions of the leaders and the companies worldwide. Does it matter? It can help. It can help a lot. First of all, to avoid blind hiring decisions. If we can have at least as a starting point some data where to look into, we can refine also the type of strategies that we can have. I often speak with some of our clients when they say, yeah, but where can we start? For example, we would like to hire. We are based here in the UK. We would like to hire in Germany or in the US or in South America. We have absolutely no clue on what the compensation package it could be, what the salary could be, etc. If we are able to map out the data upfront, we can really work on the data themselves to start lining out the strategies necessary for the company to go on and to deliver the goals that they want to achieve. We can align the strategies basically with the business goal. How does it work? It's very, very simple. There are basically an analytics from an artificial intelligence driven analytics perspective, and we can see the trends of the market in real cases, in real time scenario. This is, for example, just a snapshot that is an abstract, once again, from the World Economic Forum. We could see how the data can really help us as leaders and companies to make very ponderate and basically better decision. Thinking about, for example, if we want the skills that we want to prioritize, thinking about the levers and the markets where we want to go into, the type of industries where we are looking to. A lot we can talk about, and we're going to talk in a minute, for example, about all the initiatives from a diversity, equity, and inclusion perspective that we can drive, only starting from the data. All right, now I really would like to dive a little bit more into practice, right, and see, of course, what is really the real scenario that we can have, okay? And today I'm really super happy to have our fantastic Silvina Laiani with us. Silvina, I have a few questions prepared to ask.
Of course. Hello, Chiara. Hello, everyone.
Hi. Would you like maybe first of all to give a very brief introduction of yourself, and then I can start with the questions. So, Silvina, thank you.
Yeah, maybe I can introduce Unorthodox as well. So Unorthodox is an organization that is aiming to improve and solve environmental issues and regenerate nature with social innovation. So what does this mean? It sounds a lot of word. I mean, basically, imagine a world where nature and people coexist together and thrive. Well, this is what Unorthodox is trying to do. And as for myself, I'm supporting Unorthodox in everything having to do with people and culture. So as you said, human resources or people and cultural alternative words. And yeah, maybe you want to ask a few questions and guide the discussion.
Absolutely. So I know that, of course, we worked a lot over the past few years about the talent mapping, talent acquisition strategy. The first question is actually where the desire comes from Unorthodox to hire in new countries. What was the original thought behind it?
Yeah, well, Unorthodox origin, I mean, it's a new organization started in 2023, but basically it has more than 10 years of existence as Luke Hoffman Institute. And with that, their footprint, their global footprint already existed. And the strategy that we have is to hire people wherever they are. Basically, we're not going to bring them to Switzerland where the organization is anchored, but we can hire them where they are. We want people to bring new ideas, diverse ideas, and this is the best approach. So with that, we need people everywhere.
Wonderful. And now that's a tough one, actually. There's something that I think we can talk for a little bit. What are the challenges that you found in hiring people?
Yeah, so it is quite a challenge to hire people everywhere with only one legal entity. So as I said, Unorthodox is a Swiss foundation based in Geneva, Switzerland, and there's only one legal entity, but we have talent globally. So the biggest challenge is not only to find that talent and find the right talent for the needs of the organization, but then to hire them without necessarily hiring them as an expat, because it's it's not affordable, and we don't want to move people to Switzerland either, because then we're uprooting them. So we had to work and together brainstorm and find ideas on strategies on how we could do that, and this is how we met Atlas.
I remember that day. Ronnie, I know that we have a poll now, so I lift the microphone back to you, and yeah, let's ask for, as we said, let's talk to our audience for a moment, right?
Yeah, let's get that one going. So we're asking, have you had any of the below challenges when looking to hire abroad, such as navigating compliance risks, maintaining global employee experiences, costs associated with entity setup, and delays caused by lack of local knowledge or local entity? So I'm looking for some responses from our audience. Would be nice. Here we go. I'm watching. It's exciting stuff. It's like an election. I'm watching the results come in. So most are saying that so far navigating compliance risks, costs associated with entity setup also, and then it's an even split between maintaining global employee experiences and delays caused by lack of local knowledge. Although that has just shifted as I was saying it. So, but yeah, still navigating compliance risks, still the winner there.
Yeah, I can totally appreciate that, and it's funny actually that we can see also this feedback from the audience, really navigating the compliance risk. The compliance is really at the base of every decisions, right? Companies cannot operate without being compliant. Something that I personally see, for example, over my several years working in international environment, is how really the market legislation change from a country to another. And today, for example, we have guests in the audience from the European Union, right? Yes, we are all under the same umbrella of the European Union, but there are actually 27 different members with 27 different legislation. Now, the United Kingdom is not in the European Union anymore, right? So it's also another legislation that we need to take into consideration. We have people today joining, for example, from the US, even if in the United States, it's a federal system. So every single state might have different compliance and different legislation. So it's really interesting to see how these dynamics basically can really impact then the decisions of companies. Silvina, in your experience, any example of the local market dynamics that really challenge your organization in the talent acquisition strategy?
Well, all countries have a set of legislation that you need to respect, but those can evolve as well, as you were saying, Chiara. So really staying up to date with all of those changes is a team's effort. And we don't have a big people and culture team in-house. So we really depend on external partners to help us with that. And clearly, I mean, I can cite examples in various different countries, but we recently had to hire people in India, and clearly we have no one on the ground there. So working with Atlas was a clear advantage for us, not only in understanding, how what the salaries could look like there for a given job, but also helping us structure payroll and the offer itself. We know what we want to offer. We have a compensation and benefits philosophy, but then you need to adapt it to the local market to be competitive and to also explain it to the new hires. You also talked about the experience, and this is key. I mean, it's all a world of experiences, and we want our employee experience to be top notch. So yeah, it's a critical topic.
Did you find any differences eventually from a market to another, the major differences?
Oh yes,
Yeah.
And I mean, like, let's take the example of India. India has very particular rules in terms of how the salaries are composed once you fix the annual salary, and what benefits are statutory. And if we go to Mauritius, that will vary. If we go to the US, that will vary. And I'm here speaking only about the statutory, but then there's the practices that employees are looking for. I mean, what's usual or offered in that market. So it is going to change very, very much. Even if we look at the UK, if you hire someone in London, the salary will be one. If we hire someone in Scotland or in Ireland, which is not far away from London, then the salaries may vary for a given job as well. So it's really important to have that intelligence.
Makes absolutely sense. And yeah, and I guess that nobody wants to settle for the very minimum, right? Especially for employees when it comes to salary and to negotiation, etc. And talking about salaries, actually, let's take on the salary a little bit. How did Atlas eventually support Unorthodox with the salaries, benchmarking, and really the initial research when you were really were about to create the packages for their employees?
So first and foremost, when we need to hire someone, I will work with our account manager to see, okay, what is the legislation like in X or Y country. If we have, I mean, it's not the same thing to offer an indefinite contract or a fixed term contract. In some legislations, one is more complex than the other, or so we need to find that out. Then I will work with her as well to get some intelligence in terms of salary data. to help us pinpoint, are we planning to offer the right salary based on the other compensation data that we have? And once that is the case, for example, in India, we have defined the annual salary, and then needing to understand how to explain that in a local manner. So what are the different elements, pension plan or other things that need to be by default included in there, or how do we break those down to explain the offer to the candidate so that it's compelling, it makes sense, it's engaging, and hopefully they will accept it.
Yeah, hopefully. Fingers crossed, exactly.
Yes.
The talent acquisition is absolutely never easy. And thinking that you mentioned one word that actually captured my attention, that is pension, right? And so it's not the salary itself; it's also the entire the entire packages that we can offer that might differ from a country to another. In some countries, for example, the pension is mandatory; a certain percentage of the pension contribution is mandatory. In others, it's completely different. I'm really thinking the healthcare, right? Here in Europe, it's like, thanks God, it works pretty well, the national system. But in the US, of course, it's almost more important the plan that you can offer than the salary itself when it comes to healthcare. If we're thinking about understanding, for example, the local market dynamics, right? So how will these dynamics work? How do they work in attracting the talents? Well, what is your position when you look into the global market and the global market dynamics, and of course the talent acquisition strategies that you're putting in place?
Well, as you said, each country is different, and expectations might be influenced by what is practiced in the country. But then, new generations or employees in general have also expectations that we could say are evolving as time goes through. You mentioned pension. I can also think vacation days. That's also an important, time away from work could be also something that is important. And so at Unorthodox, what we do is we have a global philosophy around these things. And then we will work with, let's say, for example, in a given country, there's a statutory pension plan. And we say we want to offer a X percentage, 10% percentage towards pension. So in countries where there's no statutory obligation to offer pension, then these people will get an allowance as 10% of the salary. In others where pension is, the employer needs to contribute 6%, then of course we will contribute to the statutory plan, but we will also provide an allowance for the differential. So it's a mix of understanding the market, adapting to what's statutory, following that because you need to be compliant, as we said before, but also seeing what is your strategy to attract the right talent and offer that and be able to clearly explain it. Yeah.
Communication is never easy, is it?
Yes.
Especially in different languages.
Yes.
and with different cultures. Do you have many nationalities at the moment in your pool of talent?
We have a lot. We have people, as I said, in India, Mauritius, Germany, UK, France, Belgium, and from there's different nationalities as well. So it's very, very, very international, very diverse.
A very, very dynamic international group. Fantastic. Yes. Okay, and talking about actually where to hire and diversity in general, we now have a very, very quick other poll. So Ron, if you can please help us with that. Thank you.
I started this one just a little bit a few minutes ago, actually, just to get ahead of the game. So, but we've had a few responses, but we need some more. Here they come. People have need to get involved. So it's 50-50 at the moment. Yeah, it's a simple yes and no question. Do you leverage data to determine where you hire? And well, it's not not really conclusive. It's changing now. People are voting now. So most are saying they do. Yes, over 70% say they do.
They do. We do leverage. Yeah. We do leverage data. I think one of the beauty of the modern age, let's call it these days, is that we can have data really with one click. Maybe it's the challenge, at least I speak for myself, is to find accurate data, right? We are really bombarded by data from all over the world and all over the place. It is then defining on which data we can really count to make our decisions. So keep on talking about data. Silvina, any surprising insights that, for example, you found when you were analyzing the regional talent markets? Something that, oh my God, the data, I was thinking about that, and then we look at the data and it was something completely different, or the experience gave us something completely different from what we were
Completely
planning.
different. I would say mostly completely the same. So irrelevant where we're hiring people, as we discussed with candidates or with the staff members as well. Many of the things that people look for are similar, although we talk of different countries. People want to have a purpose in what they do, to understand how they're contributing to the bigger mission of the organization. But then if we talk of compensation and benefits, of course, salaries need to be fair. But then how can we ensure that people have the right time off to re-energize, to have experiences with their families and friends? And this is something that is key these days. I noticed that not only young people, but everyone are looking for more time. We have more intense days with, as you were saying, with technology and everything that's happening, as you presented at the beginning of the presentation. So people really want to, have some time off to re-energize, and so that's key. Taking care of their well-being is also important. As I said, we try to understand the markets, but also what are the general trends that employees will be looking for, and trying to provide those benefits, whether it's a financial benefit or a non-financial benefit.
Mm-hmm. And any, for example, shifts in the candidates' expectations? Did you find any shifts from an employee's point of view, basically, during the recruitment phase?
Not huge shifts. I mean, it has been ongoing for some time now, but I think well-being, employee assistance programs are interesting, so that if they have any professional or non-professional issues, they can have a hotline to get some support with. Then also training and development. You mentioned that as one of the elements that will be key. New jobs will appear, others will be restructured or disappear. So making sure that we are helping them develop professionally is important as well. So finding tools that can help that is also interesting for them.
That's really interesting to hear. Actually, I was really, while you were talking, I was really thinking about. I will attend another conference next week, and one of the major topics would be the neurodiversity, right? Mm-hmm. So how much now companies, of course, must be aware of the neurodiversity that there is on the market, and how we can eventually create a workplace that can really embrace and leverage the diversity that we can find. So it's really always nice to see and hear the different experiences, of course, that we can find in the workplace. In your, let's say, in your journey, right, with Atlas using an employable record, did you feel empowered by the employable record business model, or by the support that you received in general? What was your experience?
So I heard two questions there. The first one for me is, is the EOR model that Atlas provides helpful, and has it been appreciated? Clearly, yes. We wouldn't have been able to hire and employ and maintain the employment conditions with our employees, and also provide the benefits that we want to offer to them. So it's not just about having an employment contract, it's providing pension plans, health insurances, disability, death, and so on. And clearly working with the account manager that is supporting us within Atlas is been instrumental for that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So is this really the human touch in the end, or is this more the technology data-driven, or a mix of both? What do you think?
I think technology these days is the basis. You cannot work without technology, but for Unorthodox, what we're looking for is long-term partnerships and people who really see Unorthodox not just a cash machine, but as a partner, and that we can grow together and and support each other. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. Wonderful. Okay, Silvina, thank you so much. I actually finished my questions from my side, but anything that you would like to add at this point, something that maybe you would like to discuss even more, otherwise I'll jump in again in the presentation.
I think that these days growing internationally is a challenge, and from what we are seeing in the world, it might become even more of a challenge in the near future. So counting with organizations that, as I said, are willing to partner and to provide employer of record services or global payroll as well are important for organizations that do not have a huge footprint like big multinational companies do.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, all right. Now going back basically into a little bit of data. Today, I guess this is the unifying theme today, talking about data and talking about insights. What could be the actionable strategies for 2025 in the hiring, basically, and the talent acquisition, and in the talent acquisition strategies of company? Let's recap a little bit also what we see with Silvina. And Silvina, please feel free to jump in. I love to have an absolutely open conversation. So first of all, mapping and accessing a global talent pool, right? We saw how identifying the emerging talents is really key now for companies to really understand where they can find the new skills necessary to drive the companies over the next, I would say not only 5 years, but 10 years, 20 years. Leverage is also the remote work for hiring flexibility. And we think about, here we can open really a chapter, right? We can have an entire other webinar just about, I would say, the remote workforce in general and all the policies and the strategies that there are behind. I really find myself maybe reflecting on the real experiences that I can have and I face in my day-to-day work. For me, it's really interesting to see how the remote flexibility and the remote policies can really also help and shape the future of tomorrow. If I'm thinking about what can I do for my company to drive, of course, the company in the future, we need to basically drive strategies and action strategies that are sustainable. If we talk with the new workforce, is now young people nowadays expect flexibility. They expect to be in different countries, not only just abroad, right? I remember when I was at university yesterday, yes, a few years ago, actually, I was thinking, yeah, maybe sometimes I would like to visit one country or to go abroad. Now it's really on the reality, right? The new generation really is expected to live in multiple countries, and they change so much, and they can be 6 months in a country, 6 months in another. They just need a laptop and they go. And companies need to also take these new needs of the new workforce into consideration. Having some data-driven compensation and benefits decisions. We heard from Silvina, for example, how really crucial it is to understand the benefits, not only the mandatory one, but what is the real practice and the real expectation from the local market. Also, how this is really fundamental for companies to stay compliant. Some, for example, of the usual conversations that I have when I speak to our clients at the very beginning, really analyzing the strategies with them that they want to implement. One of the questions that I receive is like, yes, Chiara, but I know, for example, about the UK, I know about the US, but if I want to hire in India, in Africa, etc., I have absolutely no clue of what the benchmarking over there are, what the mandatory basically benefits are for that particular country. So understanding really the scenario, the landscape where we can move, it's really critical then to make well-informed and strategic decision. An aspect that is really dear to my heart, being an expert, is the cultural differences in benefits, in the expectations, even the way that we communicate and manage our workforce. So since the very, very beginning, of course, of the talent acquisition roles, it's from the recruitment phase, right? we discussed with Salvina, the PTO. You can go, for example, and with all the due respect, for example, in the US, the mandatory holidays is very short compared, for example, here in Europe. You can compare the two scenarios, is completely different. You can go, for example, and try to hire somebody in the Nordics where with very, very little benefits, for example, from a parental leave. First of all, it won't be compliant. Then, of course, the people will look at it. Ciao. We say in Italy, ciao, I'm going to go to another company. So we need to really be aware of what is expected, what the cultural differences are, because this really shapes not only the language that we speak, of course, but it always change and shape our mentality and how the candidates approach on the market. Attracting and retaining top talent. We saw before, just to wrap it up, over 22% of the skills are going to be completely destroyed. So, or not existing anymore in the next 5 years, or completely reinvented from scratches. So the difficulties, really the challenges for employers now is where to find top talent, basically. We need absolutely to dive and pull from different regions, from different cultures, from different backgrounds, from different generations, and once again, take into considerations all these aspects, okay? We briefly saw eventually how we mentioned what an employable record could help here. Mainly an employable record, what is it for those who don't know yet? An employer record, we need to think about it. It's a business model, nothing more than a business model. But an employer record is basically an organization that will manage all the legal HR, local and tax compliance from a compliance point of view in the countries where you do not have a legal entity yet, or you are not even willing to open a legal entity. Let's see, for example, you have a country in Switzerland, you would like to hire people and talents in India to be compliant, or you set up your own entity, but it could be extremely expensive, especially if you're not looking to expand in that country, you're just looking for that particular skills, right? We look at that. So maybe you just need to hire 1 or 2 key talent, and they are not in the country where we are. They are, for example, at the other side of the globe. What can we do? We can use an employable record to compliantly hire and maintain and manage those particular talents. So basically, the employable record is going to be, we need to think about it like your HR local part, right? We're going to take care of all the legal, admin, and HR aspects, while the company will deal basically with the day-to-day. So from a talent acquisition strategy at the very beginning, and then to the day-to-day activities, KPIs, career path, etc., whatever is the day-to-day activities and relationship with the employees, that we remain with basically the company. Okay, all right. Now, I really would like to open once again to the audience and see if there are any particular questions at this stage.
I have some questions, Chiara. So how can businesses ensure they're offering competitive, but I guess this is the important bit, cost-effective salaries and benefits in different markets?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Ronnie. Thank you. I think that Silvina covered this a little bit before, right? We need to start, for example, from the general data. What are the benchmarking that we are looking at? First of all, what is mandatory and what we can offer on top of that? As employable record, for example, we always say the minimum legal requirement is that we adhere to the local legislation. We mentioned before the PTO. If the mandatory PTO in a particular country is 25 days, 30 days, we can offer the candidate below that data. That would be not compliant. But it is also true that this is just the starting point, because this is what mandatory employees maybe will look above that. So where I can find now eventually the best package or the best companies. Now everything related to the well-being is really extremely important, and well-being is really an entire world, right? It is not just of course the health insurance that we can offer, but it's also the additional benefits, the additional support, like a desk line for employees, mental health, etc., that we can have maternity and paternity leave, etc. These are all the aspects that candidates, from their perspective, they are looking to. So if we're really thinking about, especially thinking about a global strategy and a global hiring, as employer, we also need to be able to offer the more or less, whenever possible, of course, by the legislation, the main benefits, right? I cannot offer something in France and then for my employees in South Africa something completely different or far off from. There should be a company culture around as well that should be also protected. So the fact that we can also, that companies can now, for example, through employer of record, but eventually also setting up their own entities, they can also have the possibility to having access to a pool of benefits. It really helps to have to attract also the best talent possible, and also get the best compensation and benefits packages possible. Silvina, I'm not sure that.
Yeah, could I complement that? I think that if you think of the organization by itself, by its mere small size, will have little negotiation power with big insurance companies for health insurance, for example. So the advantage of working with an employer of record is not only that you get data as discussed, but then you can access their negotiated plans, so health insurance, pension plans, whatever. They have a bigger mass of employees, so they have better negotiation power with those insurers. So accessing benefits, international benefits, through the employer of record allows a smaller company to benefit and manage costs as well.
So can those employer of record, can they help companies scale globally while also ensuring compliance with local laws, like labor laws?
Definitely, yes. This is the main purpose. Exactly. You have the possibility to hire everywhere where you would like to hire, but respecting the local legislation. That's absolutely the base of the business model and Atlas as well, to be compliant with the local legislation, to help clients to be compliant with the local legislation.
And if I'm not mistaken, Chiara, I mean, Atlas can also support establishing a local entity in some countries as well. So whenever the organization has a given size in a country, you can help them move from using the EOR to establishing the legal entity and then supporting with payroll, for example.
Absolutely. And this is, for example, a very, very successful story, right? We usually have maybe companies that start little. They start with hiring 1, 2, 10 employees, and then they don't know the markets. They need to test. Let's think in the reality. I want to expand, for example, in another country. It's very, let's say, difficult or very challenging that they're gonna start big. You start little first. You test the market, you see, and then step by step. For example, a year, 2 years later, the company grows. There is a good pool of talents, and as I said, it's like a baby, right? Now the baby is wait to go by themselves and walk by themselves and take their own steps. So they're ready to set up their own entity. And we can definitely help in this transition. That's a fantastic, successful story. You start small, we help you with the growth, and then you're ready to go by your own. And we can help you, of course, setting up full success. And then exactly like a child, let you go and of course being independent on the market and on the road to success.
Talking about so what are the first steps that HR teams should take when they're planning to hire in new countries? What's the sort of jumping off point for them?
Silvina, shall I leave that to you?
Yeah, I can. So, I mean, if we're planning to hire, I mean, as an orthox, I think I mentioned it. So let's say we need to hire for a given role. Our strategy is to hire ±4 hours from Geneva, let's say. So we will open the job in a job board. And then as we start getting candidates, trying to see with my counterpart at Atlas, okay, what are the things I should know about hiring in this place? What are the others that I need to, this is like a fixed term contract or an indefinite contract, anything that you can give me at this stage. In parallel, I will have already looked with her as to whether I can have some compensation data to, complement what I already have in those countries. And then once we have made the decision to hire, then work with the team at Atlas to make the employment contract, because the employment contract, when we work through AUR, is done by the employer of record, but with our instructions. So it's very much a partnership, as I said before. And then, of course, explain to the people. I mean, the candidates are not always aware of what a EOR model is. So we need to explain what this means for them, not just the salary and the benefits, but how will the day-to-day be for them as being hired through a EOR. And that's also an important consideration.
Absolutely. We need to make people feel comfortable, right?
Yeah.
Of course, they need to feel safe that they're joining a great organization, that they're going to be supported, of course, from all points of view, legal, HR, etc. If I may add, for example, something on that, working as a consultant with so many different firms, a question that I always ask at the very beginning, right, when companies come and say, Chiara, I need to hire, for example, in Poland or in South Africa. My very first question is always why? Why are you looking to hire, for example, in that particular country? It's because you want to expand in that market for a business reason in your industry, etc. You have a project in that particular country, so you need to be there in that particular region, in that particular country, or completely different scenario. Are you looking for skills? So, maybe you're looking into Poland, but maybe we saw with a talent mapping eventually, etc. We can see that there are different markets where to go. So always try to find, to dig into the reasons that are behind the strategy, because we can really tailor the service. We can really help companies also to optimize the resources that they have, the resources that they don't know they have yet, right? And we can find a solution together for everybody to be successful.
I think this is the last one we've got. When it comes to remote hiring, how can a business balance that with a need for boots on the ground, a sort of in-market presence, and what you might call cultural alignment?
We need another webinar for this, Ronnie.
Yeah.
Yes, right. Silvina, would you like maybe to give your insights, please?
Yeah, well, Anorthox is a purely remote organization, so I can really speak to this very well. I mean, it's not just about being side by side in the office that is needed for people to be productive. Of course, bonding is important, so you need to balance the remote aspect with the presential aspect, organizing meetings every quarter. How are you going to manage, how the line managers are going to coach the employees who are not in the same site. So it's a lot of work for people in culture or HR to support line managers, to support the employees, and to create that culture that is the glue in the end that brings everyone together.
Absolutely. And I would also say I could see how the trends are really varying depending from industry to industries, as also from region to regions, right? So I presume that it's also our duty, I would say, as leaders, as managers, to be able to communicate with our employees, regardless if we are in person or if we are remote. But it's also our responsibilities to understand the employees' needs and make them comfortable. You mentioned something that to me is really important, Silvina, before, right? When, for example, we use the employer of record model, not all the employees are aware of what this model is, right? So they have questions, they really have doubts. So having the possibility, regardless if we work remotely or if we work in presence, to sit down and talk and discuss with your managers and discuss with us and discuss with HR eventually, and address the questions that candidates might have. And later on, hopefully they're going to be employees of the companies. That really not only boosts the hiring, but also then the retention of the pool that we can have.
Okay. Right. Well, thank you very much for your time today. Brilliant. I hope our audience gleaned much information from that. As you can see, or maybe you can't see, there is a QR.
What happened?
You'll be able to see in a minute when I stop yakking. There is a QR code where you can gain more information on from Atlas and how global employers can adapt to policy shifts. So once again, thanks for your attendance today, and thanks to Silvina and Chiara for great webinar.
And thanks to you, Ronnie.
Thanks, Ronnie, and thanks, everyone. It's been a pleasure.
Bye now.
Bye, Chiara. Bye, Ronnie.